Hey there, I want to help you do a value per acre spot analysis in your community. This is something that I do regularly when I go out to give presentations and talks in various communities, to be able to do a quick look at the relative financial productivity of places within our community and assessing it based on a value per acre analysis. So that way all things are considered equal in terms of the productive capacity of any given parcel of land. We often look at the big bill for the large properties, but actually ignore how much value there is that is stored and capable of being used for productive uses in our communities within much more of the fine-grained urbanism within our communities. So I'm giving a talk in Mount Vernon, and follow along with me as I walk through the way in which I've gone about just doing a quick analysis of, I think it was 8 or 9 different locations within Mount Vernon. So in the first case, what I like to do, you'll know this off by heart from knowing your own community already, but I identify a couple of spots that I'm going to check out in the downtown. So I like to use like the downtown Mount Vernon shop here, for example. Went and saw this sign, Easton's Books, that seems pretty great. So I do a quick Google map search, find the location, and I like to get down to the street level to see sort of what we're dealing with here. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to make sure that I've got the correct building situated in its own location. Now, this is a very modest 2-story structure. Notice it's across from a vacant building that's for lease, and immediately across the way is a bail bond. So when I'm doing an analysis, I don't pick the fanciest, sort of glossiest, most wonderful location in their downtown. I'm going to find the one that's going to have a bit of a tough time. You've got bail bonds across the street, which may or may not be the most reputable of industries. You've got vacant properties. Evidently, people have tried to have a business here, and for one reason or another, it has not succeeded. And then we've got Easton's Books. There's some residences on the top, it looks like, or some type of habitation up there, as well as the capacity here. Nothing all that spectacular, and yet, as we'll see, this is really at the heart of the community. So as I go in, what I want to do is I want to grab that address, 701 South 1st Street, and I'm going to go over to the Skagit County property assessment search. If you do a quick search, the only place so far that I've found that doesn't allow you to do this is, I believe it's Cook County in the Chicago, Illinois area. For some reason, their records are really, really difficult to find. There's probably somebody smarter than me that has been able to manage this. So a couple of things that I'm looking for here. They've done a great job with a summary. Sometimes in my municipality, what I actually do is I go onto a realtor's website that actually shows me how large the parcel is in acres. And then I go over to the BC property assessment tool to see how much it's valued at. And I actually have to go to a third location to track down the amount of property taxes that are paid on the city's own site. Thankfully, here in Skagit County, this is actually something that is quite simple to do using their summary field as well as one other section. So in this case, I'm looking for the acreage. It's a 0.17 acre site. And I'm looking at this key value here, which is not only the building value, but also the land market value for the total market value / the total assessed value. Now, you can even see here, sometimes you get really strange things where you'll have almost a double the amount of price that it's actually valued at the on the market level, as in people that are willing to buy and sell property are willing to pay significantly more. We actually see this a lot where you'll be surprised at how low things are assessed. Sometimes that can be as a consequence of strategies to lower your assessed value with the county assessor's office, and then simultaneously reap the value of having the market value be considerably higher, or what people are willing to actually pay for it. We've got a whole thing on how this happens frequently with residences, especially wealthier homes. And I'll tell you, the big box stores are the ones that do this most effectively, knocking down that value. But even if you take these numbers at face value, that this is a parcel of 0.17 acres at $842,000 per acre. Actually, I kind of want to run the numbers. Here, I'm going to mark that down. 1.6 million. We'll see actually what that does if we were even closer to what the actual assessments were. So in this context, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop that in a spreadsheet. Here in this case, I've got Easton Books, which is what we're looking at. I've got its address. I've got its lot size. Now I've found its lot value in the property search, which allows me, I'll go into the calculation in just a moment, but I want to pull up one other thing. And this is something where Washington is the sales tax state, And so Washington, you'll get an audience member that will say, hey, we don't really bother about property taxes. Well, you should, because property taxes are really important. They cover the Port District, the county administration. For Mount Vernon, there's a state levy. There's a number of other fees that you can see are coming off of here, including a substantial amount of funding for the school district. And in this situation, because Mount Vernon's at a low-lying community, even paying for core essential sort of emergency offsetting supplies in the form of a diking district within the community. And so out of this, I want to grab that amount that they've paid in the year for their taxes. And so I'm going to add that in. And now we're looking over here at, let me just move my little screen out of the way. We're looking at the amount of property tax they pay and then the property tax per acre. And so what I can do is I can continue to just add in more of the places that I want to look at. So for example, we're going to look at the Walmart downtown, not downtown, on the outskirts of town, a 27-acre site. So this is a much larger site. And you can see these numbers are a lot more impressive. This is a site worth a taxed value or a taxable assessed value of $28 million. And if we go over to the property taxes that this site owner has paid, we can see that it also is a significant amount. In fact, they pay their bills twice a year, so that twice a year you're getting $163,000 coming in from this location. That's a large check that shows up on April 30th and October 31st. And municipalities are drawn to that because that feels like real progress. They notice the last one was $9,000. This one is $163,000. You're saying, why would we ever contest that this is obviously better for our communities? $327,000 on a 27-acre site. But now we go into doing the math. And this is really a critical part of a narrative and an argument that we are helping people to understand. And basically what we are doing is, I'll show you in a spreadsheet version and then I'll explain it more generally. We are taking the lot value, that is how much value do we have captured, and then we're going to simply divide it by the amount of acreage. And so in the first case, a 0.17 acre site actually has packed a lot of value onto that particular site, to the point where it's the value per acre is $4.9 or $5 million per acre is captured on that particular tiny little fraction of the downtown. Take another site that I did, the Skagit Valley Food Co-op. I'll show you what the building looks like. Again, very modest, very simple. This is what the Skagit Valley Co-op looks like. Again, very simple structure, nothing all that fancy about it. Can easily be adapted into other uses as well. And if we notice, the site size is not quite, or it's not even double of the previous one. But because of its added capacity and its added sort of value within the community, its capacity to be used for multiple purposes, this is the one that actually scores the highest in terms of the value per acre. So again, it's only valued at $2.6 million, but its actual value on a per acre basis is $11 million. Then I've gone through, and in this case, I picked two more sites. So 2 on First Street. Then I took a look at Division Street, and let's compare that. And so I've just come over from Skagit Valley, over the bridge to the other side here. And now we're looking at, we're still in Mount Vernon. So again, trying to make sure that we stay within each jurisdiction, but just taking a look at a slightly different building type and understanding sort of what its general value is and what amount of productive capacity it's created within a place. And again, I'm just looking because I don't want to grab like a vacant parcel. That's its own challenge, as you can see with this here, where it's being marginally used. But again, this is a very simple structure right next to a pawn shop, which, again, much like a bail bonds, is not exactly the first sort of choice. You can see some of the ways in which traffic is now much more of an impact, has more of an impact given the width of that road and just the way in which this is laid out. But in this context, this has an assessed value of $263,000, but a value per acre performance of $2.3 million. And the property tax per acre, $26,000. Again, less than what we had in the core of the community, but actually still outperforming the rest of the things that are on this list that I'll show you. Then just a little bit further up the street, we've got the value cleaners. We were just right over here on that yellow one. Now we're going to take a look at here. And I grabbed this one, and you would want to do something similar because you can see now we've got a slightly different build style. rather than being built to the curb, being built to the place where the productive exchange of value is taking place. Instead, there's a little bit of the smuggling in of a suburban practice of putting those parking spaces right up front, so that you have these parking spaces on the street. But they've foregone that and actually said, no, let's bring customers in and through. But there still is parking at the back. But in this context, we can see that it actually is very low performing. It's one of the worst in terms of the actual value per acre. And that is in part simply because of the shift in value that is created by the way in which it becomes a less efficient use of that property. You can see the way that this is situated and limiting the capacity of that place. Probably if we did a similar study of this one here, you would see a significant drop, or even more significantly here, where you've got a very auto-oriented structure with efforts now being made to try to rehabilitate this site because of the lack of capacity that's there. And yet it'd be great to be able to check the zoning capacity and the types of things that are serving as a barrier. But I digress. Let me just go on. So what I also did is I said, hey, there's another Modern Cleaners in the city. Let's take a quick look at that one. It is a slightly more intense land use. And as a result, I just grabbed the wrong one. Actually, I'll skip that one. So if we go over the Lowe's, we're doing the same thing here. We're just searching for it in our property search. We are taking up the information from how large is the site, as well as how much is it worth. And actually, I do want to point out the fact that it's interesting here. What we'll see as we then look at the Walmart is you can see how much more compact this Lowe's has been. And it's actually a consequence of farm fields in the back, perhaps a landowner that was willing to hold on longer. And as a result, this is limited in its capacity, a much smaller Lowe's than many of the ones that you'll see. And they've also added in an additional Dairy Queen that's here. I believe that's on the same parcel, but even if it's not, it's actually increasing the productive capacity of this space. But that Lowe's is only performing at $1.5 million per acre. So again, that electronic supply center, that really tiny little 0.11 acre site has not quite double, but a significantly more productive capacity, is contributing more in terms of property taxes on a per acre basis. But then if we go on the same street, what I like to do is often use some of the same sort of themes to connect those things together. So 2 things on First Street right in the downtown, 2 things on West Division Street as you begin to see some of the changes in the development pattern popping up. Then a second cleaner, but showing that if you use it just a little bit better, you get a slightly more effective land use. Then going over to places like a Lowe's or a Blade Chevy is one of the auto dealerships. Again, we're dropping down to our worst performance on a value per acre basis and a property tax per acre basis. And then picking some of the recognizable ones. So we're going to go to Walmart here, and we're going to identify it. First, I'll show you what the site looks like. Very common, very normal, very underutilized, and very damaging to the long-term financial prospects of a place. So there again, I'm grabbing 27 acres for this site, assessed at $28 million. And again, we're looking at the amount of taxes that they've paid, and you say, oh, $327,000, but on a per acre basis, that only comes out to $11,971. That means that cleaner is paying more on a per acre basis. And then the final part of the argument. So once you've created this, again, this is a spot analysis. Then the final part of the analysis is to say, what would we have if we had more of these things? If we continue to build out in the style of Easton's books, if we continue to build out in the form of the Skagit Valley Food Co-op, if we continue to provide for that type of development rather than intensifying and subsidizing the types of development that we've highlighted here at the bottom, where the warning sign was already at the Modern Cleaners location. By changing the built pattern, by changing it and downgrading its effectiveness, you actually limit the capacity of your community, but even more so when you do it with large, substantial swaths of land. 37 acres is probably larger than their whole downtown area. If we take a quick look at what's here, this kind of area here, Mountain Porterhouse Pub, where we're going to meet up, 37 acres will cover a lot of this space. I would imagine if we add that all up, we're looking at way more capacity to have value. And this is a key part of the argument. It's not just to say, whoa, big numbers here, small numbers here, but it's to say, this is what happens when we lose sight of what it takes to build lasting prosperity in our place. This is what happens when we limit our capacity to build and sustain the ability for not only value to be created, but also a critical part of this question, especially around small businesses, is who can afford to buy, say, Ken's Hairstyling, the business that Ken is working out of? Well, probably a lot of different people. A lot of different participants can actually snap up a smaller structure that, again, is only worth to the market participant, say, $160,000. You could be on West Division Street, move that building up to the street, make it more vibrant, more active. You could purchase the Electronic Supply Center, a good, reasonable investment on a street that actually has the capacity to build wealth in your community, $263,000. If you want to be a player and purchase either a $2.6 million property from Blade Chevy or the Lowe's, it's under one owner or a composite version of market ownership, or you have fractional owners that have been working the stock markets in order to purchase real estate all over the place. But these are not going to be things that are become available to your local landlords, to your local folks that are looking to get started, to immigrant communities that are willing to put a foothold in a place. And so in this setting, this is how you go about using a tool like your property search. If your community doesn't have this information online, it probably will be there somewhere deeper in the archives, or you can contact your city and say, hey, this is the project I'm doing. This is what I'd like your input in, and get to it that way. So if you are watching this, thank you for persevering. I hope this has been valuable to you. I'd love to be able to talk through this more further. And if this interests you and you want to have a Strongtown speaker come and talk about it, work with community members in order to bring together a Strongtowns event, or we could do a virtual event at some point, because the talk that I'm giving tonight, the reason I'm doing this work for Mount Vernon today, actually, no, it's tomorrow, sorry, is on the question of the development of Mount Vernon and what they should be prioritizing when it comes to their official community plan. As they work on this core sort of text outlining what it is that they want to see in their community, it is imperative that they really grapple with and understand what it takes to build lasting prosperity. And so with that, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.